This thing got so low on coolant that the warning light came on and the customer's like, oh my God, I just cooked this engine. Let's find out what happened to this Maserati. Let's get started. This is a 2009 Maserati Granturismo. It's in pretty good shape. It's one of my favorite Maserati cars. I love the two-door Granturismos. They sound amazing. But like I just mentioned, this one had an issue where they were driving. They noticed that coolant was maybe dripping here or there, but they finally found a light that came on. It said low coolant light, and they were like, okay, I better get this to the car wizard because I may have done some damage. Luckily, the engine is okay. But before we dive into what caused that light to come on, let's take a look around this Granturismo. What a beautiful front end. You had a Maserati for a while, Mrs. Wizard.
I did. I had a 2018 Levante. It was an amazing car.
It was a really, really cool car. The wheels on this, you guys can let me know. I don't think they're stock. They say Savini forged, and they are 22s, staggered wheels. You can see the beautiful body designed by Pininfarina. As we come around to the back, it has some kind of a wedge-shaped taillights. It is the Granturismo model, like I mentioned, and the exhaust on these sounds so good. This one's in really good shape on the exterior. Let's hop under the hood. You know, working on older cars has its pluses and minuses. I know the engines really well and what usually breaks down, but I also know that I'm not the first person under the hood. What did those other mechanics do? That reminds me of a story way back in the day, when I was a kid back in the 80s wearing my He-Man t-shirt, jogging shorts, and tube socks. I'll spare you that mental image. But my story is from the summer I turned 10. My dad bought a new push mower. I wanted to see how it worked, so I started tearing into it. I didn't know what I was doing. To say the least, when my dad tried to start it later, grass came out of the cylinder head. You're lucky to see me today. Good thing Mom helped save me. I wish I had pictures of that day. I bet you have some great memories too. I also bet you have photos from those times hidden away in a box that hasn't seen the light of day since the Reagan administration. Those classic photos deserve to be shared, and with the technology we have today, it's so easy with Aura Frame. These digital frames are one of those gifts that keep giving, whether it's for your mom or for other favorite people in your life. You can easily preload photos to the frame before it ships and text more photos directly from your phone. Plus, it comes in this beautiful gift box. I know my mom would love opening up this box, but I think I'll add this photo to it so she remembers me as the angel I really was. Named #1 by Wirecutter. You can save on the gifts moms love by visiting auraframes.com. For a limited time, listeners get $25 off their best-selling Carver matte frame with code CARWIZARD. That's auraframes.com, promo code CARWIZARD. Support the channel by mentioning us at the checkout. Terms and conditions apply. Now back to this Maserati. This is the Maserati 4.2-liter V8. It has a little over 400 horsepower, and it is derived from an actual Ferrari engine. It doesn't have a flat plane crankshaft like the Ferraris do. It has a cross plane like any other V8. But basically, there's a lot of similarities with this engine. It's basically a Ferrari engine for all intents and purposes. One thing that's interesting is you can see from the front of the car to this brace bar, there's no engine here. It's a huge open gap. The engine doesn't start until you get almost past the center line of these struts. So it sits behind the center of the wheels, way back into the firewall. Very, very interesting how they set that up. This has the blue valve covers. The red ones are back when they had the Duo Select. This one's the Automatica. And like I mentioned, a little over 400 horsepower. They're pretty quick. They're not like tire burner or anything, but they're not insanely hard to work on. The name of the game on these cars is the price of the parts, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. Very expensive, but the interiors are always so nice. Take it away, Mrs. Wizard. Let them see what it looks like.
There you have it, 59,792 miles. And it's looking nice up there, like that gauge cluster. It is easy to read. Let me go ahead and turn my light back on so you can see a little better. But looking good. I like that we have nice circles design on there. It is a little different than the model that I had, but still looking good. Dash is also looking nice. Nice leather wrap dash up there. As we move down, we have our wood trim, and then we go to a nice camel leather below that. Over there by that vent, we see Granturismo. In our center section, we do have our analog clock, small infotainment screen. We have our numpad for our phone, and then we've got our controls for our HVACs. If we get below that, we can see our automatic gear selector, parking brake, and then we've got a couple of cup holders and our armrest in the center. Move to the side, we'll see we have really nice leather seats, and they are quite comfortable with a little bit of bolster on the side. Door card also of that camel leather, but that wood trim also does continue on to that door card as well. As we get to our back seat, it does look like it would hold 3 people, but as we scroll down, you'll see no, it does not. That is a section there for an armrest and our cup holder. Nobody gets to sit on the hump in the back seat. So this is a 4-passenger car. Headliner looking really nice. It's a beautiful Alcantara. And while our steering wheel is starting to show some signs, especially on our up and down arrows and our audio up and down, it's starting to show some wear, but everything else is looking really good. I like the circle button design, and I can tell you now they're having a problem that is very common to a lot of cars, and that is gummy sticky. Yeah, it's starting to get a little sticky there. So not soda sticky, but aged plastic sticky, which is unfortunate because it's such a beautiful car. So enough of this interior talk. Let's get this up in the air and see if we can see some evidence of where that coolant went.
One thing I noticed right off the bat as we're looking under is I see a lot of dirt, like they maybe went on a dirt road or something. There's a lot of mud. This is kind of caved in, and we see a lot of mud on the wheels. I'm not sure what happened there. Not too sure. But anyways, you can see the front of the engine up here, kind of. There's our secondary air injection pump and some things, a vacuum canister. Our radiator is just right here, and I don't see anything leaking from it. We'll check out our wheels. The brakes are getting kind of thin in the front. Shocks are not blown. Luckily, these are expensive Skyhook shocks. Sway bar links are good, nothing loose. Brakes are kind of thin over here, probably 10 to 20% remaining. Shocks are not blown, sway bar links are good, nothing loose there. Now as we go back, I'm seeing more dirt here. They scraped pretty hard into a mud pile, or I'm not too sure how. But here's our engine, and here's our ZF transmission. Everything's nice and dry there. More mud. Here's our stock exhaust. Wow. It's kind of a detective mystery where all this mud came from. Drive shaft is good, and then we have our rear differential. It shows no leaks. We'll check out these wheels. And the back brakes are about 50% or so. Struts are not blown. CV boots are okay. Nothing loose there. Same on the brakes here. CV boots are good. Sway bar link is not loose. Nothing loose there. We have dual exhaust all the way back to dual mufflers, dual exit. Everything is true duals on this car. Let's check the date codes on these skinny little tires. We can see 10th week of 2020, so they're about 6 years old. They still got good tread. I could probably say you can still use them, but definitely want to keep an eye on in the next year or two. It might be time for tires. When you get close to 10 years, it's time to get new tires, regardless if they have tread or not. Let's get this thing back on the ground. So you guys have probably been kind of wondering as we've been looking this over, where is that pesky coolant leak coming from? Danielson did pressure test the cooling system and found out what it was, but let's see if you guys can guess what it is, just kind of looking in the engine bay. Could it be the radiator with these plastic side tanks with a small crack leaking out? Could it be that coolant hose, the clamp is a little loose, or that outlet flange is leaking? Or is it a coolant reservoir? Let us know what you think it is in the comments. So if you guessed the radiator with the side tanks, no, it didn't end up being that. It's actually holding pretty well. If you guessed it was the hose or the outlet flange or thermostat, no, it wasn't that. What it was is the old coolant reservoir. This is the third one we've done in the last few months. It seems like I said, things come in threes. This is number 3. Coolant reservoir being cracked or damaged on these Maseratis. If you have a Quattroporte, a Granturismo, and you have coolant loss, check the coolant reservoir. Let me show you. So all these little brass fittings that are inside these ports are pushed out. They're supposed to be even with the port there, not sticking out. Same thing up here. They're literally pushing out. It's kind of a design flaw. As the plastic gets hot, and expands faster than that copper pipe or brass or whatever that is. It slowly pushes out with pressure. Also, these are known for cracks in the plastic. Take a look. You can see all these cracks. They're ready to break. It was leaking through some of these cracks and through some of those fittings I just showed you. And also through this seam right through here. Most of these reservoirs are on any other car would be 50 bucks. Of course not on a Maserati. It's $200 or $300. And then there was other things we found, like we saw the brakes and a few other issues. We did get those prices together, and the prices were so high. Let's talk about prices on a Maserati. I have actually gotten emails where people say, I found a Maserati for sale, a Quattroporte. It's really cheap. I think I can squeeze this. I think I can get into this car. What are the repairs like? Is it reliable? No. No, they're not reliable. They're not terrible. They're not bad like a Kia or a Hyundai or something. It's just that when it does fail, when something does go wrong, that price you have in your head, quadruple it or quintuple it. That's the real price it's going to cost to fix one of these. The last guy that emailed me said he was, like I said, looking for a Quattroporte. He found one, wondering what is it like to keep one of these, or the upkeep and the maintenance. I give him a few little numbers here and there, and he instantly said, hell no, I ain't buying that car. I had no idea it was that high. Little things like these shocks, they can be $2,000 a piece, $2,000 to $3,000. Brakes can be thousands of dollars. Engine repairs, thousands and thousands of dollars. You got to keep in mind, a lot of parts on this car are literally Ferrari parts. So is your prices for repairs going to be Ferrari level prices. A Maserati is definitely something you don't take to your corner mechanic who works on Chevys and Dodges and Fords and say, maybe he can work on this. No, probably not. Because one little oops, you don't pay attention, you break something, you crack something, the shop's now liable for a $3,000 part or a $7,000 part. It's really, really expensive. I've actually heard of a guy who took his Maserati to a rural mechanic, kind of not a farm mechanic, but a rural mechanic. He got in there and cracked a few things and broke a few things. He didn't even have the insurance or the money to bail himself out of the repairs on the Maserati. That got towed to us. We got it fixed. The customer paid the bill, and he was like, I was dumb. That was my bad. I should have never taken it to somebody that knows nothing about these cars. So if you're looking at one of these, they are awesome. They are cool. They give you that rich look like I've got money. But you better really have money to maintain it, because be prepared when you take it to the shop for a few small items that you get a phone call. Okay, yeah, we can do that. We can do that. It's going to be $9 grand. That's just the way it is. That's Maserati life. Now, the pieces and parts we just mentioned that could have failed are very problematic really on any car. Most radiators today are made out of aluminum, but the sides are black chintzy plastic. And they last 10 to 15 years or around 100, 150,000 miles, and then you get a hairline crack and it starts spraying coolant out, especially when it's under pressure when the engine's hot. Hoses and things, a lot of parts on engines today, even thermostat housings or coolant outlet flanges, are now made out of that same black chintzy plastic. Where everything used to be metal, now they're going to all the plastic, everything plastic. Where it could have lasted 20 years, now it's going to last 5 or 10, maybe a little bit more. You're going to start seeing leaks. Audi and Volkswagen and BMW and Mercedes are really bad about the achy, breaky plastics. And even General Motors is not immune from this. You guys remember on the 3800s, the Buick 3800s, they had coolant elbows made out of achy, breaky plastic. And they would last maybe 100,000 miles, and then it would never fail to blow and leave you stranded on the side of the road. Dorman actually made a metal upgrade, and once you install the metal elbows, problem solved for life. They don't really make anything like that for Maseratis, but there are manufacturers for the Ford 5-liter Coyote or Jaguar Land Rover 5-liter. Multiple engines out there that have so much plastic crap on them that are coolant parts. There's manufacturers out there making aftermarket parts that are made of aluminum, and they're making bank on these things because the manufacturer couldn't do it to begin with. They decided to step up and make those parts out of aluminum for you, and they can't even make them fast enough. It's crazy. Why didn't we do that to begin with? I don't know. Did they really save that much money? Probably not. So if you're cruising along and you see the coolant warning light come on, and you see your temperature gauge going up near the H for hot, don't tell yourself the lie, I've only got a couple more miles to go, let me see if I can make it. Don't do that. Your engine's currently okay. It won't be okay by the time you get home, and you will cook the hell out of your engine. Is it as inconvenient as it is? Pull over, put it in park, shut it off. You're not going anywhere. Call a friend, call a family member, call a tow service, get your vehicle to a mechanic shop. Don't chance it. Today's engines are, like I just mentioned, are made out of plastic and aluminum. They're not made out of cast iron like the old days where you could overheat them pretty bad and they probably would survive. They won't survive today. You can do tens of thousands of dollars of damage by saying, oh, I can make it. It's only a couple more miles. It's still running. Just pull over, give it up. Trust me, it'll save you a lot of money. If you're curious what kind of tools we're going to use on this Maserati Granturismo or any other car in the shop, check our Amazon affiliates link in the description below. A lot of the tools we use every day in the shop are tried and true. They're for sale there, and if you purchase any of them, we get a small cut and really appreciate it. Make sure before you go that you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, because we're moving to Las Cruces soon, and the videos are going to keep coming. Thanks for watching.